You said Justin, right?
Yeah, Justin.
Ustin.
Yep.
How are you liking UVU? That's where I graduated.
I like it, but I'm actually currently not at UVU. I actually switched my major and ended up in aviation school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yep.
How can you fit in one of those little planes?
You know what? I ask myself that all the time, but I make it happen somehow. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, my newest brother-in-law is like 6'2", and he's a pilot, and
Yeah.
so
Nice. I mean, I really enjoy it, so
good. I'm glad.
yeah.
Uh, have you done any solo flights yet?
I have.
Yeah. How do
Yep.
you like it?
I love it.
Where's the farthest you've flown? Are you just circling the valley, or
About 80. So I actually currently just moved about a year ago. I moved back. Me and my wife moved back to Utah from living in Arizona for about a year and a half. And while I was down in Arizona, I believe it was like 81 nautical miles. And it wasn't. It was just from Mesa, Arizona, down to near Tucson, Arizona, and it was good. It was kind of weird because you're flying along and you're like, I'm in a magic flying box floating through the sky, and it's just me in the plane. Like my instructor isn't in the plane anymore. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of weird when you look at it that way, but it's not too bad.
how much longer do you have in the program?
Too long, too long. Yep, I'm trying to get all my certifications done and all my hours done, and eventually go either corporate or commercial flying for the airlines. So,
Very cool.
yeah,
Well, good luck with that.
thank you, thank you.
Do you have? First of all, do you know what this is? Have you
I
ever heard of street epistemology?
I have not. No,
Okay. Do you know what epistemology is?
no, I don't.
No. Neither do I. I'm just winging it. No. Epistemology is the study of how we know things.
Oh,
So street epistemology is civil discourse on how you, for example,
hmm
have come to your conclusions
hmm
on what you believe.
okay, cool.
Sound good?
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Do you have a belief that you would like to make a claim on that we can discuss, that you wouldn't mind having questioned?
I don't know if I have any like true beliefs that I would discuss on. Maybe like I don't know. That's like a deep question. Never really thought about what are some normal topics that you have either covered today or cover in general or people like to talk about or people have brought up before.
Um, I mean, there's a wide range of things. They can be paranormal, they can be religious, they can be political, they can be um, whether or not this is a shared reality or solipsism
Yeah.
or,
That's deep. I mean, I'm super big into paranormal stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you dare make a claim on,
I I believe that paranormal stuff is there. I believe it exists in certain places, but a lot of people like I don't know, you can go into like the UFO aspect of like paranormal stuff, but I do believe that there is a other side that in some instances can show itself to you if you're meant to see it. If that makes sense.
you're meant to see it?
Yeah, like when someone says they saw a ghost and they have this whole story about how they saw a ghost and if they saw a ghost, they saw a ghost. I'm not there to tell them that they didn't, but you may have seen that ghost and it must have happened for a specific reason.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
sure. Is it possible that there's another explanation for it?
If there is, there's probably a lot of explanations for it. But like when I was younger, I remember walking into my grandparents' room and seeing a ghost.
Yeah.
It wasn't walking, it was floating and it floated across the room. And I remember just standing there and being like, holy smokes, was that real? I think in my head I'm like, I didn't just fall down the stairs.
Yeah.
I just witnessed a very weird apparition of a human being I don't recognize go from one side of the room, go through a door, go across the hallway, go across where the couch was at, and went into another room. And I was like, no one else was home. Mind was blown. And then I never wanted to go into my grandma's house ever again. And it was terrifying. There's a lot of questions that were asked to family members and online searching, and yeah.
Okay. What is your confidence level in this? Like 100,
100%, 10 out of 10. It was,
like you have
it was
no
the
doubt
most-
that this was
no.
what it was, that it was a ghost. That
Because you hear a lot of people talk about how they saw an orb,
Right.
or they saw this flash of light, or they woke up in the middle of the night and saw something. And I look at those and I'm like, I've woken up in the middle of the night before when I was a kid or a little older, and I swear I saw something. But then you fall back to bed. You wake up in the morning and you're like, I saw something. Some of those are like, they're a shot in the dark, I believe. Unless you're an individual that has a full account of it. But I just got done swimming at my grandparents' house. I opened up the sliding door, and there it was right in front of me, was this male individual, what looked like a male individual, not walking, but floating across the room with a weird white glow, and it didn't say a single word, and my eyes just literally just went across the room, and it was, I can't explain it. I wish I could, but I can't, and I'm 100% on this.
you're 100% sure that you were awake for this, that this
Yes.
wasn't a dream.
100%.
Okay. Is there anything, based on, that this was a personal experience that you experienced yourself, is there anything that could convince you otherwise, that could take your confidence level down?
Well, when I first experienced this, I didn't want to believe it at first because it was frankly terrifying to me. It's like a 13, I believe I was around 13 years old. It was terrifying. So, I looked at, as a kid, I looked at literally, I looked at all the evidence being like, no one was home. I didn't recognize this person. And it was, I can't explain it, but I know I was there, and I know I was 100%, and it was oddly just too realistic.
And you weren't stoned. I just
No. Not that moment. No, I was not.
Have you ever had any experiences since?
I've had some experiences where it was just like randomly just kind of weird stuff happening. But it all just was happened like too quick, of like being at like a girlfriend's house and a cabinet just opens and closes, or like just stuff like that. I'm just like, I could brush that off because it happens so quick, and it's not hard evidence like I had already in that experience. It just, yeah.
If you hadn't had this experience and somebody told you about this, how inclined are you to believe that?
If I didn't have the experience, and I didn't have experience like it, and someone told me this, you might have a little shimmer of like, okay, I can kind of believe it, but at the same time I'd be like, I don't believe it because I haven't had an experience like that.
So on that same scale, 0 to 100, where do you suspect you would be if you hadn't had the experience?
I would
and
be
were told about it.
Maybe like a 10, because
That low.
yeah, that low, because I just can't. I wouldn't be able to relate as much, just because I've never experienced something like that, and that's such like a weird subject that you don't really get a lot with people unless like they're your best friend or you're listening to like a podcast or something, where it's like I really wouldn't believe them.
Um, Still the same scenario.
Mm-hmm.
If you hadn't had the experience, somebody told you about it,
Mm-hmm.
what could they do or say to convince you to raise your confidence level in that?
I guess at that point it would come down to my relation with the person. I feel like if I'd been around that person a super, super long time, I knew them really well, we were really good friends, and they were like, the other day I had this experience. I thought I'd share it with you because it was weird, it was crazy, and I feel like you should know. And they have enough enthusiasm just to share that with me, and I know them pretty well. I could raise that up to where I could feel, I could agree with them. I wouldn't be super confident, but I would agree with them. They saw something like that.
What's the highest percent you think you could?
I think I could go about 50-50 at that point.
Yeah. Okay. I had another question that I was prepared to ask, and I lost it. Um, Shoot, oh, it was a good question. I wish I could remember it right
It's
now.
all good.
Right. Okay, I remember it. Um, if you, okay, with how confident you are,
Mm-hmm.
have you considered investigating further, looking for more proof?
Mm-hmm. You know, not really. I kind of look at that as like an experience. I really don't know why that happened to me. I really don't know why or where I would go from there. I remember being that age and just sharing it with, all my family members because I told my grandma I was never going to come back to her house ever again. But like, other than that, no, I really haven't looked into it that much.
Um, do you suppose that your confidence level, I mean, it's already at
Mm-hmm.
100%, um, that by investigating,
Mm-hmm.
you could either somehow increase beyond that 100% that
Mm-hmm.
you have already, or decrease, like uh, by finding no other proof that it might decrease your confidence that it did happen.
Yes, I do believe that I believe that I could go into this and read about other people's experiences that have similar situations, or I could go into other situations where someone's like, they laid out why people could have these situations and how that just wasn't really there. It just going that route, it just might be hard since I just saw it so I was just so in tune with the moment and there that it would be hard to lower that number. I could probably raise that number by hearing other people's experiences, but it'd be hard to lower that number.
Okay. Do you suspect that there is a way to test it without experiencing it yourself? Like for me to
Mm-hmm.
test it without ever seeing a ghost myself.
I when looking at and talking about it in that way, I really don't know. I don't know unless there was some I guess some outside force that was like you're in a situation to where that ghost is right in front of you and you can see that visually with your own eyes and fully believe. I just feel like paranormal stuff is just so black and white. Either you believe it and you're like, or you're kind of on the border with it, or I feel like you don't believe it. To where I feel like it'd be really hard to convince someone like that, or to put you in a situation where you could experience that by yourself.
Yeah. Well, do you have any questions for me?
My
Or
only question is, have you had any experiences today talking with people to where you learned something?
Learned something today.
Yeah.
The first person that I spoke with today shared about a book that seemed like it could be interesting about near-death experiences. Um, Spoke a little bit also about uh, meditation. Like she didn't use this term, but trances and
Mm-hmm.
you know.
That
Yeah.
sounds like it'd be pretty interesting to hear about.
Yeah, I've had a lot of really good conversations.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah. How did you feel about the conversation?
Thought it was fantastic. I thought you did a good job at asking me questions, getting me thinking about it, and went very well.
Thank you. I'm new at this, so
Went
I'm
great.
glad I'm getting
I
better.
never would have guessed. So,
Okay. Anything else before we wrap up?
is there anything have you been here the entire time listening in and
Yeah, I was in Boulder last week or two ago,
mm-hmm.
and there was somebody that talked about ghosts.
Yeah.
And the person that I was with, their question that I wanted to remember to ask next time I talk to somebody about ghosts
Mm-hmm.
was, if you had never heard of ghosts
Mm-hmm.
before,
Yeah.
what do you think it would have been?
Mm-hmm.
How would you explain it if you had never heard of ghosts before?
That's a good question.
That's yeah. I don't know. Unless I have something, unless I have a definition of it, I don't think I could just explain that to someone or even experience.
And you're 100% confident,
100% confident.
and your main reason is personal experience.
For the 100% confidence is personal experience is honestly just that personal experience and hearing other people and their just kind of weird stories about what they saw and just the way that they talked about it and backed up why they were fully believed in what they saw. It just doesn't, like, after I had that and after just like little small things like hearing some certain voices sometimes when I've been with other people and we're looking around like we both just heard exactly what we heard and it was just didn't make sense in the situation, but it kind of made sense of like the place we were at. It just didn't add up that I could ever drop that 100% down because of it was just so visually in front of me what I saw that I couldn't go lower than 100%.
Could someone have an experience like that and attribute it to something that's not real?
I do believe. I mean, I guess it depends on what your definition of real is, because people can also say a lot of paranormal stuff like isn't really real. They
Well,
could
as
just
real
be,
as
oh,
the way you're talking about this experience,
yeah,
the ghost being real.
mm-hmm. I could.
Could someone have a personal experience,
yeah,
and attribute that experience to something that isn't real in that sense?
I could see someone kind of pushing that aside, kind of like just having an experience like that and kind of putting it in the back of their head and being like, that wasn't real. And then like a couple of years down the road, by then that's kind of so far back in their memory because maybe they don't want to remember that situation, that they could kind of wave that off as not real or just something they just didn't see.
I guess to rephrase my question, could someone have a personal experience and attribute it to something that you do not think is real?
Yes.
Okay. So why is that reason strong enough to be 100% confident?
Because it just depends on how well I know the person. If someone like if someone I knew and I knew they weren't that trustworthy and they're kind of crazy, if that makes sense, and they came up to me and were like, I experienced this.
Yeah.
I would have a thought in the back of my mind like, I want to believe him because of the experiences I had, and I might, but there's something always going to be there that's like, I don't know.
And that's interesting too. But I guess what I'm at, my main question is, if you're using a reason
Mm-hmm.
that someone could use to
Mhm.
arrive at a false conclusion,
Mm-hmm.
why is that reason strong enough to be 100%?
I don't know. I can't explain it.
Okay.
I just feel like, I guess I might as well. I just feel like I would sell myself short if I believed everything someone told me. If they explained a situation like that and they're like 100% about it, there's just something in the back of my head that's like, I can be 100% about what I saw, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, if I'm answering your question correctly.
Last question. How confident should we be in
Mhm.
conclusions that we're using reasons
Mm-hmm.
that could also be used to arrive at false conclusions?
I don't know. That's a hard one. That's hard. That's great. That's really good. You really like, it's like you watch all these TVs and documentaries of like, or you even like your family member shares a ghost experience, and you even though you had a situation like that, I guess it's so paranormal stuff's just so out there that it's always just going to be like you don't know.
Yet you're 100%.
Yeah.
You're still at 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because until you experience something like that, you're just never. I guess someone just can't fully understand unless they've actually have experienced it. If that makes sense.
Yet someone could experience something similar and it not be real.
It just depends on the person. It really does.
Yeah. Cool. That was fun. That was great.
Hopefully I answered questions.
Absolutely. Sure. Thanks so much for stopping.
Yeah, thank you
Justin,
guys.
right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll take care of you guys. What's the name of the YouTube channel?
Do you have a phone?
I do have a phone.
You can scan that QR code to take you right to my channel.
Heck yeah, awesome. Well, good luck, you guys.
Thank you.
Hopefully I helped out.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
That was fun.
Did you see Emily?
But I should
Go
ask
by?
you guys both. Have either one of you ever had a paranormal experience?
I have actually on my phone a video that I took that a lot of people would probably be convinced was a UFO. This was like in the desert in eastern Washington on a mountain bike trip. And like it's definitely not a plane because it stayed in the same spot.
Yeah.
It might have been a drone or some kind of like military like some kind of equipment or something like that.
Yeah.
But it could probably be used to verify something like a UFO if they already believe in UFOs.
Yeah.
Like it would probably be used to confirm someone's belief in UFOs.
I like how you're thinking about that.
So I don't know. Would that count?
See, that's tough because I feel like with UFOs, it's just such like a broad, because you're seeing just something in the sky.
Yeah.
And either nowadays you have drones, you have all these other things that can go into that UFO category, to where it's like unless you have a really like defined experience with a UFO,
right?
It's really hard to say that's a UFO.
Are aliens paranormal? Because it seems like to me there's no supernatural assumption to be made to like aliens would still be natural.
Yeah, it would be. I feel like it would be natural. I feel like people might throw it in with supernatural just because it's not something we see every day or see even maybe at all. So they kind of throw it in that category with the ghosts. Because they're like, supernatural,
Right,
UFOs, aliens. I
Yeah.
just feel like it's just if you do, which I'm not saying UFOs are real because I've never had an experience with anything related to that.
Mhm.
You might say it's just natural because it could be actually there.
Yeah.
But I guess at the same time, ghosts could be as well.
I don't think that I could ever be 100% about it being a UFO though.
Mhm.
Other than like if I'm defining it, I can't identify it, therefore it's a UFO. Like
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
But like with the evidence that I have, wouldn't I wouldn't feel justified being 100% confident
Yeah.
that it was aliens.
Yeah.
What confidence level could you apply to it?
That it was aliens?
Yeah.
I'd probably be in the maybe 11. Maybe 11%. But that's because the belief in aliens, I don't think is that like the universe is so vast
Yeah.
that the likelihood that there are aliens, like I'm probably in the 20s for that.
There's a lot of universe.
Yeah.
So
But-
that we have not
Yeah.
explored.
and there is possibility, but there's no way that us being here on this planet also isn't somewhere else,
Right.
unless we just rolled the dice and got 15 snake eyes. Like,
The best argument
don't know.
against that I've heard is that there has to be a first though, right?
okay,
Maybe we're the first.
I like that.
But I don't know.
Hey, thank you guys. Take
Yeah.
care.
All right. Have you ever had a paranormal or
Something I couldn't explain, yes.
uh
A shadow figure in my home. But, and if he stuck around to hear about this, my wife grew up in a haunted house, and everyone who has lived there has had at least one experience seeing ghosts, seeing specific what's the right word? Not apparatus, but apparitions.
apparition? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how did that conversation go for you?
It was interesting. I was anticipating him asking that question while he was still sitting here.
Okay.
And
Like what's your take on the paranormal or whatever? Or ghosts?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I was going to tell him I have something that I could probably write off, the shadow figure, but
Mm-hmm.
my wife and everyone in her family and everyone in her dad's family and has had experiences in that home.
Okay, so everyone that's had the experience in the house is related?
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'd have a lot of questions about that.
As you should.
As far as like did the people hear about the previous person's experiences? And if so, how do you suppose that influenced their, like being primed or whatever? Like, oh, this house, I've heard it's haunted. And so the likelihood that you're going to look for things that make it seem haunted is higher?
That is a possibility. The way the stories have been told, while I am myself still a skeptic, the way that the stories have been told seem to be not contingent on any other stories.
Okay. The stories aren't. Okay. What is that?
Are you familiar with sleep paralysis?
Yeah. That's like, isn't that like your body is paralyzed during dreams and stuff so it doesn't hurt itself kind of thing? Like doesn't walk off cliffs and stuff.
I guess that could be an aspect of it.
I think of like
But
running in the mud. Like that's kind of like a common dream where you're like trying to get away and you're like slogging through the mud, and that's because of the phenomenon that you're not able to move when you're when you're sleeping because of that. It's like a self-protection
Probably.
evolutionary trait.
The examples that were shared by my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, uh, sometimes the same, like multiple experiences with this. Sometimes the same figure, sometimes different figures, but where they wake up, they're paralyzed, and there is a figure at the foot of their bed or at the side of their bed, or in my brother-in-law's case, once he described it, like best he could describe it was a demon sitting on his chest.
That's scary.
Not that he necessarily believed it was a demon from hell, but that's just how he described it.
That's freaky.
Yeah.
That would freak me out if I thought it was something like that.
The story my wife most recently told was her friend was sleeping over. It's the last time that her friend slept over, because they saw a green figure, wasn't really a blob, it wasn't smoke, it wasn't a personage, it was just something green and floating there, and eventually went up the stairs and around the corner. And so I've never had an experience like that. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, that's absolutely true. I'm still going to be a skeptic until something like that happens to myself.
Okay. So a similar experience would potentially cause you to believe that there was a ghost in the house?
If I can't come up with any other explanation. And so, even my wife is perfectly willing to be skeptical. Like, the effect that electronics can have, it's an old house. It could just be faulty wiring that's messing with perception. She's perfectly willing to accept an answer like that. But
Yeah. It's an interesting topic.
it's fun. It's the paranormal is a fun topic for me.
Yeah. It seems to be not so like what's the word? Sensitive, maybe, or like maybe a good question would have been like, if you decided that it wasn't a ghost, how would that change your view about the world? Would it have an effect on what you do every day, kind of thing?
Are you asking that as a possible question for Justin?
Yeah.
Okay. I suspect that it would not change his life much at all.
Right. That's kind of what I'd gathered too. Like, I would still get up and do the same things every day if I found out that this whole time it wasn't a ghost, and my relative kind of came clean and was like, I totally pulled this prank on you and I feel guilty now and I just want you to know.
I wanted to
that
ask
day-
if he looked at family photos to see if he could recognize the.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I guess what I'm saying is kind of a safer topic to maybe explore than
Yeah.
something that would change their behavior.
Yeah. I wonder if we could get him back, could he come up with a topic that would change his behavior? That has an effect on his behavior.
Yeah. And sometimes it might be valuable to kind of run through this exercise with something that isn't too deep for them, so that they kind of understand the process, and then use it with something that is a little bit more impactful potentially to their worldview or how they would change their behavior.
All right.
Are there any other questions that you would have asked that you maybe felt like you should have? Or
No, I felt like the bases were pretty well covered on that one, with where his confidence level was at, but also he seemed genuinely honest in, if this hadn't happened to him, if this wasn't a personal experience, his confidence would be down at 10%.
Yeah, that was great. The pen dropping to the whiteboard might have been a good one. It's like, okay, so you're just as confident that that was a ghost as you are that this pen is going to hit the whiteboard.
Yeah, that example crossed my mind, and I hadn't quite put it together how to word that, how to make it not apparent, make it relevant to the topic. But the way you just worded it there would have been good.
Because that way you know what they mean by 100, maybe.
Yeah.
And they would explain what they mean by 100 by going through that exercise, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, so I'm just as confident that I saw a ghost that I am in that happening.
Or maybe even hand it to him and say, how confident are you that you could make that pen hit the whiteboard?
Yeah, maybe.
And do those confidence levels match?
How confident are you that you're seeing me sitting here now?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Because it's based on seeing something, right?
Mm.
Like, are you just as confident that that was a ghost that you saw that you are that you're seeing me right now?
Mm. And what other senses were involved? Was it just your eyes? Did you hear anything else? How many is a single sense enough to warrant 100%?
Yeah.
He's on his way back. Do we want to nab him?
Yeah. So where are you at now? Are you still at 100? Like, see him at the grocery store. Still at 100?
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a good one.
Have a great night, you guys.
You too.
Take care. You still at 100?
What?
You still at 100?
Yes.
Okay.
It's all about experience, you know? Like, I can see if someone, like, I don't know, I've never taken drugs, right? I can see if someone I could see if someone likes to take certain stuff like that, where they could experience something maybe like stronger than what I experienced if they're on certain types of drugs, or like just stuff like that. But no.
So, an unrelated question to that.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you have... How did I word it? We were just sitting here talking about
thing?
No, it was a belief that could change your behavior.
A belief?
Or like, what this belief, how much does this belief affect your behavior? Like, if you've somehow, hypothetically, decided that it wasn't a ghost.
Yeah.
Not saying that it wasn't.
Yeah.
Just saying if you concluded that it wasn't,
Uh,
how would that change your daily life? Not much.
change it at all.
Yeah. Do you have a belief that if you found out was not true would change your behavior?
It might change my behavior, and the fact that like when I see other people's experiences or I see something on TV, or I guess really other people's experiences, my number would drastically change. But other than that,
Are you still talking about ghosts?
Yeah.
Or, okay. Is there any other belief that you hold that?
like relating to that, or like just
Not necessarily to the paranormal, just if there was something, what would be a good example? If you found out that you were colorblind.
Yeah.
And that this color of green grass is not what everyone else experiences, could that change your behavior at all?
it would change my behavior at the beginning, because I would want to understand more of what other people see. But if I'm just sitting there and I'm like, there's really nothing I can do about it, I'm just gonna keep going on that grass is green because that's what I can see, and other people, I'll understand when other people say that that grass isn't green. But at the same time, that's what I'm seeing. That's what they see. If everyone around me is like, hey, it's not that color, I'm gonna believe it.
If you found out that no audio was coming out of any headphones, and you're like, but everyone's wearing these headphones, could that change your behavior at all?
Yes, because I would understand. I would want more to understand why. It's like when you get into like the rabbit hole of like, am I actually here right now? Like, I know that like I can control my fingers. I'm a full blown person that can think a thought in my head. But when you sit there and you're like, can other people really have that same? It's just weird. It's just weird because then you go into all the conspiracies of like all like so many things in history have happened. So many different conspiracy theories of like so many. It's like the moon landing. It's like, did they actually land on the moon?
Okay, so
Or did they?
There's another example. If you found out that was staged,
Mhm.
could that change your behavior at all?
No, because I do believe it's staged.
You think so?
I do. I really do.
That'd be a great one for next time.
I feel like
That'd be great.
when you look at today's technology and you look at back then technology, I'm calling my buddy on the phone, and I'm driving down I-15, and my phone's like, and I bought a brand new phone. iPhone 13 Pro Max with it, and I can't hear him on the other end of the line, and I'm like, they were in outer space. They were able to communicate so well. But when you look at all the other, I'm not 100% on that, but when you look at all the other, like, conspiracies relating to the moon landing of, like, it was a race, and why not? Why not film it?
Why not fake it?
Why not fake it?
Just to claim that
Motivated to win the race.
It was such a
to
race. Yeah. It was such a race for someone to actually land on the moon that why wouldn't you get to a point where like this is actually so hard, we have so many funds, but we can put those funds toward a scandal of a film of us landing on the moon? I mean, I really do believe that. Like, I don't believe.
Where's your confidence level on that?
I would say the problem is I can go both ways, because I could see. It doesn't make sense to me in my mind of if they landed on the moon, they have all the film, even though like it was a race. Why haven't we did that? Like, cool, we did it once. Like, wouldn't we want to go back? Even if we have the technology to send robots and rovers to space, why would we send someone back to land on the moon?
Is it that you're unaware that we've been back, or that you don't believe we've been back?
When I look at everything, I just don't believe think that I would just need like really good evidence. It's not a conspiracy that I'm like so solid on because I haven't really sat down and gone through all of the pros and cons to where I could actually weigh it. But just sitting here looking at everything, it's like I could see how we went to the moon, but I can also see how we escaped. And it's so hard because it's so contradicting. Because when I'm flying in a little plane, flying through the air, I'm like, this is pretty advanced. Like, it may not look or like sound advanced, or when you're reading a manual of how it actually works and how the atmosphere works, it doesn't sound that advanced. But when you're actually just in a plane flying through the air, it's actually so much more advanced than most people realize.
Are you convinced that moon orbits the Earth?
See, that's something that I try to think back to all my knowledge on astrology.
Like, how far back can we go with this? Like, are you convinced that the Earth and the moon are spherical?
See, I do believe it's hard because sometimes when you're in a plane or when there's certain aspects to everything to where at certain points, if you're actually looking for it, you can see how you can see that's spherical, and you could tell yourself that okay, the Earth's round. But at the same time, and I feel like unless you get shot up into space in a rocket, and like me personally, if I go up into space and I'm in a rocket and I can actually look down at the Earth, I'll somewhat believe it at that point.
That's what it would take for you that the Earth is round?
Unless someone's got some damn pretty good evidence.
What would that evidence look like?
And that's the problem, is because there's so much evidence out there of people that have actually done that and they filmed it and all that stuff to where you can see it, but it's. I just feel like there's so many different things that we're just not told.
I forget what it's called, but have you heard about the experiment where you leave at one point, you fly to a certain point, turn 90 degrees. Hey, you have time for another? You have time for another? She was our first interview
yesterday. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. I hope that you guys meet up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is evening time anybody?
So far, maybe a little bit. It's a different crowd.
Let's see, third or fourth
Not as
today.
many.
Fourth
I would
today.
say fourth today.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Fun?
It was actually it's nice because it's nice thinking about stuff. It's really nice thinking about stuff.
I agree. I think I have one recommendation, which maybe I think my expectations. Sorry,
No, I'm
fine.
loving this.
Okay. I think when I started in, I was expecting that by the end I would feel an end to our like a resolution. Like either I would come to the conclusion that like, oh, that's clearly a bad supporting reason for this belief, or I'd come to like, okay, that's like pretty solid, or like solid it up or whatever. And so I feel like I was wondering if that was your goal, or if, because I kind of felt like by the end of whatever conversations we were having, it was like, okay, that's it. Like,
The goal is to give you an opportunity to shift if you feel like you need to based on the conversation.
right.
But we're not
Well,
trying to persuade you.
Not trying to
either
persuade,
way.
but just like opening it up. But I feel like in an obvious way, it'd be like almost everyone watching, me, you, and like whatever YouTubers, it'd be like kind of like a clear, like, I think we all can see that like maybe that isn't as solid as maybe you thought. You know?
Are you still at 75?
Well, I don't know. I like. I feel like probably. I don't know.
Which is totally fine.
Because it just didn't seem clear to me by the end. Does it make sense?
What
Like
would
a
have been clear
conclusion,
for you?
Maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, what would have been
A-
a satisfactory conclusion?
Ending?
Yeah, ending.
Well, and I mean, I guess maybe I'm just a person who seeks validation, but I feel like it would be like yeah, like that seems solid, or like that doesn't seem solid. Or even asking, maybe you did ask me if I thought that that was good.
Yeah, like, because you were basing your belief in evolution because it makes sense to you.
Right.
And could something make sense to somebody and it not be true?
Mm-hmm.
I think you said yes,
Mm-hmm.
which is what's keeping you from going above 75, or the fact that you had to rely on other people's research.
Right.
That's what was keeping you from going higher than 75, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. So I feel like maybe we did get there. Maybe it just needs to be reestablished at the end, so that I felt more like, all right, like, there we go. Like, I don't know.
If you think that it makes sense to me is a good enough reason to be 75, then that's where you are.
What do you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so if you found out that it makes sense to me is not a good reason, the idea is that you would shift either way based on the conversation about how solid that reason is in relation to that confidence level.
Yeah.
We talked about ghosts.
Cool.
And
Did you pull a card or something, or was it literally just like?
No, it was.
I was having a hard time coming up with a thing.
I mean, it was just an experience when I was 13 years old. Just seeing a very solid experience
With a ghost?
of a very realistic visual experience of a ghost.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that would be fun.
It was fantastic. It's just nice being like, I don't know, just being asked certain questions about it,
Yeah.
and then like, but also getting an opinion about
Yeah.
it as
Well,
well.
because walking it through in your own brain,
Yeah.
at least I personally don't walk myself clearly through things like that.
Yeah.
I write it out or speak it out. So I think it's cool.
Oh, it's just nice because like when you have a paranormal experience, you kind of have to walk it through in your mind because it's like paranormal is just such like a weird subject with people.
Yeah,
It's either you see it and you
Or
experience,
or you have to. Yeah. And it's like if I haven't seen it, then like.
Yeah.
Like.
Yep.
Yeah. Totally. That's what I'm
Hey, thank you guys. I'm gonna head out.
That's just more information on
Awesome.
on how this is done. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Now take care. I followed that YouTube channel. So
Cool. Thank you.
take care.
Bye.
See ya.
Yeah. Well.
You want to take time for another chat?
I mean, we could go as long as she is
At ease.
yeah. She was getting a little fussy on my around that. So.
And now you're kind of more familiar with the process.
Yeah. So like I'm imagining, because afterwards I was thinking of like, what are other statements that I would think of? Because I was having such a hard time thinking of a solid statement. And I feel like maybe one like stealing is wrong. Like,
Moral claims.
eh?
Always.
Like, yeah.
We could talk about that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we could try. I mean, yeah. I just felt so like I was doing it wrong, or like we weren't getting to where you were wanting to get. Like.
I get
Well-
that a lot, more than you would probably think, and I think it's because people aren't used to having this type of conversation. That they're used to more of like,
A confrontation.
a debate. Like there's this position and there's this position, and they have to argue about it.
I also feel like whenever it would be more like the questions lead me down a direct path that's either I'm right or I'm wrong. And so if I don't get there, or either not like necessarily right or wrong, but like good enough, you know, like I get to the point where it's like, okay, I don't think there's a better way to know this. So like when I say evolution, it's like, okay, well, I don't necessarily think there's a better explanation, and maybe my reasons for believing this aren't like perfect, but like they're good enough, and I'm not going to go around just having no thoughts about it and no beliefs about it, but I'll have one that's like, you know, pretty solid, and I can base my behaviors in life around it. confidently enough, even though I know I'm not necessarily like 100%.
So here's a question. If somebody said that they were 100% confident in something and they were using because it makes sense to me.
Then I would say that's wrong. Like,
Okay.
incorrect. Like, so I feel like
That the reason wouldn't justify the confidence?
yes.
That's okay.
And I feel like it's really difficult to find any reasoning to justify 100% confidence. So,
What is the highest level that reason could achieve
say
in
again?
your mind? What is the highest level of confidence that reason that what was it?
Because it makes sense?
Because it makes sense to me.
Uh-huh.
What's the highest number you could give that, and what might be the lowest number?
I mean, I guess it's hard for me to visualize a confidence in percents. It's like, well, what does a 75% even look like or feel like? You know, I'm not totally, I haven't been used to thinking that way. So, like, I don't think I could give you a number that's like, I think it would just be like a random guess, you know? Like,
Sure. How about in terms of how it affects your behavior?
okay.
Your number was 75%. That would imply that 75% of your decisions are because that makes sense to you.
Right. Huh. Because I think maybe 50, honestly, because I think I instinctually do a lot of things. Like, I don't think about it logically. I mean, I could, and maybe if I did, it would make sense, but I don't really go down that road. I think most of my behaviors are based off of an impulse or a just feeling that it's right, or happy or good or satisfying or something along those lines. So then I wonder if maybe my actual behaviors reflect a feeling more than it makes sense, which I guess people probably answer that frequently, that the reason that they believe a certain thing is just because it feels right. Like, I don't know, that's just how it feels.
Yeah, that's pretty common. And I think that's probably pretty honest too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't always work through each decision logically. Sometimes I rely on my intuition and emotions, and that's what kind of drives my decision making. Like, I think that's pretty honest. If you want to make the best decision possible, is that the best thing to rely on?
I think it would be a combination of both. Is when I am trying my best to make the best decision because I feel a lot of pressure. This decision is important, then it goes off of both. And that's the best that my capacity can offer, is that it makes sense and it feels good. And maybe the other is that it makes sense and feels good to other people.
So, if you were to put that into a pie chart,
like
that
my feelings, that it makes sense, and then other people's feelings and other people that make sense.
Yeah.
Huh?
So,
There you go.
how would you split up that pie chart of what takes priority in your mind, of how your decisions are made, how your behavior is affected?
Let's see. Oh, see, I think this is tricky because I think my feelings were first informed by, like, my caretakers or whoever I was school with or whatever, what they thought was. So maybe in the end, whatever feels like my feelings and intuition. So if it's like myself at this age, like, what do I think? Versus like the whole story of me, like including me as a little girl that like relied a lot more on other people's validation, which it still does a lot, but less than. See, that's the thing, is that you guys don't ever tell me yes or no. Like, yeah, that's what we're looking for. It's like, I don't know, you draw it. I'm like, well, you have to tell me the criteria.
We're not claiming to know either.
I know that. Yeah. We're all
We're-
just figuring it
We're
out.
all on the same team,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what's the most reliable way to know stuff. If knowing, if having the as accurate a map of reality as possible is important.
Right. Which I think it is. Okay, so I'm gonna say based off of the fact that a lot of my personal feelings of logic and impulse are informed by other people when I was young, like specifically and especially when I was young. I would say that. So let's say others' logic, others' feelings. I might say this would be my feelings,
So that's like 20%.
my logic. Sorry.
It's another.
And this
20
would be,
maybe.
if you split this in half, then this would be others' logic and others' feelings.
So other people's feelings is the biggest piece.
I would say, in context of the fact that I think a lot of my calibration of right and wrong is based off of what other people infused in me when I was young. Does that make sense?
So would you say that you put more stock in nurture than in nature?
That's good. I don't know. Because I guess this would imply that I think more nurture than nature. Because if I thought that it was nature, then I would think a lot of what I'm doing is driven just by my biology. Like me, not necessarily what my mom told me or what my teacher told me or whatever. So,
Is this where you want to be?
I mean, since some of it is, I think maybe I'd rather be like 50-50. I think I would appreciate a version of me that that is more more self-trusting, I guess. In I guess in my self-trusting, I personally think would be based on like my ancestry, whatever my ancestors infused in me from all the genes passed down to me. So, but like trusting that because it will feel like me, even though I think it's a compilation of all of my grandparents. But it feels like me in the day to day. So I think doing half and half.
You'd rather it be different than what it is.
I think so. Yeah. I think I seek and feel like I need validation more than I would like, which started this conversation. I'm like, why do you guys make it feel so lame at the end? Like I'm like confused still, and like, what's the right answer? What's the wrong answer? I'm like going back home and still thinking about it because there's no right or wrong answer. And
I love that. Like going home and still thinking about it. Like that's a successful conversation for us.
Yes, I guess. But in my head, it was more frustrating because it was like, well, what did that get me?
Uh-huh.
But now, I think this conversation feels more like I'm getting somewhere. But that's just me. I feel like I need strong conclusions. You could ask my people.
How about a better understanding of where you're at with things?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, it's like I feel like this feels more conclusive than our last one. But
what were you gonna say?
I don't think that's a relevant question.
Oh, okay.
But you can shoot if you want.
Would you have needed it to be an affirmative conclusion for you to feel better about
As
it.
in affirmed by you guys or affirmed by someone else?
You know, that in the end you felt affirmed. Or could you have been equally satisfied by feeling challenged?
I mean, I feel like feeling challenged is fine, as in like leaving it open-ended, but I feel like it has to lead me in a direction, like versus I feel like if you don't have a clear direction by the end of a conversation to continue your thinking, kind of like a scientific paper has the conclusion that's like, okay, so this is what we know, and maybe in the future, if you're going to keep on thinking about this, maybe this direction or something. Like I'd need something like that, versus like an actual affirmative conclusion, like you're right or you're wrong. Like, I don't necessarily think I would need that. Just more of a direction. Which in the last one, I felt like just like, well, what the heck was that? I don't know. Like what just happened? You know.
We can blame me. You were my first session.
Well, no, don't worry.
So I didn't know what I was doing.
That's okay.
I've learned a lot just in these last 2 days.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, just like giving me a shot.
You've had 8 now, right?
That's awesome. How fun. You guys having a good time?
Yeah.
Good. And well, I better get going.
Cool.
All right,
Well,
thank
thanks
you
for stopping again.
Do you have
It's fun.
Good to see you
just
again.
information about what SE is and where you can learn more and where you can
Very cool, very fun.
how you can have these conversations with other people.
Right. Pretty awesome.
Safe travels.
How long are you guys going to be out here? Well, because you are from like Washington, and you are from
Provo, right?
Provo. Oh, great. That's awesome.
I think the light is to the point where we're probably going to start packing up.
I know it's going to be sad. Well, I'm heading out to Oregon tomorrow, so I'll be in your territory.
We're in Oregon.
We'll be in Salem and then on the coast, Rockaway.
Okay, cool.
So it'll be fun.
Yeah, enjoy.
All right, tell me your names again.
David,
David.
Ryan.
And what?
Brian.
Right. David. Okay. See you guys.
take care.
Take care.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
It's always cool to get feedback later. Like,
So I'm glad that she stopped.
yeah.
It would have been cool to actually do a sit down on camera. And
This is all on camera except for the 360. I had turned that off because we were done debriefing with Justin.
Do you have any questions about what this is?
Sorry. What did you guys say?
Do you have any questions about what this is?
Oh yeah, we kind of do. What is it?
It's called Street Epistemology. This is his channel, Sound Epistemology. But it's a civil discourse about any topic that you want to discuss and how we come to our conclusions,
Oh, okay.
how we know what we know, and how we justify claiming that we know it.
Oh, it's a civil thing. Okay. Well, I don't know.
That's the important part.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Thank
Yeah.
you for explaining it to us.
Have fun.
Have a great night. Yeah, we wrap up.
Cool. That was cool.
Before we shut off cameras, do we want to sit and just
Can?
discuss that? Or
Let's do that. So yeah, all 3 of these are still going in the audio.
So yeah, it was really cool that she gave us the time to give feedback.
It's interesting that, yeah, she sounded dissatisfied with yesterday's conversation, and I guess I'm still in the mindset of it's a different way to talk about something, right? It's not the way most people discuss a topic, right? And I I think that might play into why, like, she was expecting to be told that she was using proper reasoning or not, right? It's kind of what I got.
Yeah.
And
Simply put, expecting to be told that she was right or wrong about what? About her logic.
yeah. Why do you think that she was dissatisfied?
I mean, I'm still inclined to blame my lack of experience. um, uh, I've already erased her pie chart, but that the notion that roughly 2/3, 3/4 of what influences her is other people's opinions and logic.
Yeah, it was the biggest chunk.
Yeah, that she forfeits enough of herself, of her free will, if you will, relying on other people. I liked that she took to my question of nurture versus nature, and reflected on that.
Uh-huh.
But I hope that her takeaway will be along the lines of I mean, stop caring so much what other people think and tell her, and start relying more on her own intuition, her own insofar as she's willing to do the research herself. Because there are some things that are just beyond our grasp or beyond our willingness to engage with, and so sure, we can trust well enough the people who have said something, but
yeah, from what I gathered, she wanted it to be different than the way it was. She wanted it to be more of a 50-50.
And I would hope that she would invert it, that it would be 25% what other people think and say, and 75% herself. Having that confidence in herself.
Yeah. Maybe you'll run into her again someday.
Perhaps.
You can see where she's at.
Yeah.
That was a good day.
It was.
Yeah, 2 good days, I think. So, yeah. Thanks again for reaching out and letting me hang out with you and come out and do this. It's been great.
Got roughly 3 hours tomorrow that we can try to get some more.
Cool. And then it's going to get hot.
Yep.
From what I know. Cool. Anything else you want to?
No, I think we're good.
Cool. Sweet.